So students, let's continue with our part 3. So in the part 2, we saw the land revenue system, that is to increase the British land revenue. What method or what important changes did the British do in the revenue system? That is, they measured the area of the land and they fixed a permanent tax for it. Those farmers who failed to pay the taxes, their land were being confiscated. Okay, confiscated means the land were being taken by the Britishers. So the British system of land revenue collecting different from places to places were also different, and because of this the farmers were getting exploited. Okay, exploited means they were getting spoiled. Now what were the consequences of this land revenue system? Okay, now the consequences of the land revenue system were as follows. Now what happened to it? First, selling of crops at whatever prices the farmer received. Second, the merchants and the brokers started purchasing their goods at very low rates. There is a mistake, spelling mistake. It is goods, G-O-O-D-S. Third, farmers started mortgage of his land for tax payment and became bankrupt. Mortgage means money that you borrow in order to buy land or house from the bank, or loan what we take. So for taking loan, we have to keep some security with the bank, that is called as mortgage. And bankrupt means where you cannot pay the loan back to the bank. Whatever things, money you have or whatever property has been completely finished off, or it has been completely clear up. That is called as bankrupt. You become nil, no money left over. So these were consequences, that is Britishers, because they increased the taxes, because they change their rules from time to time. The farmers, the peasants, he had to bear lot of consequences. He had to arrange many things for the payment. He sold his crop at whatever price he get, whether his price was profitable or whether he was securing loss, he did not see, because he just want to pay the tax. He sold his crops even at a very low rate. The merchants, the landlords, the money lenders who were there, they were also they were also ruining the peasants and farmers. They started taking their lands and paying them very low rates for it, and they were charging with heavy taxes for them. Okay, because of this, the farmers got exploited from the government, that is the British government, also from the zamindars, the money lenders and the merchants who were actually working for the Britishers. Then came the new important policy. The British came up to increase their profits. They came up with another policy, and that was known as the commercialization of agriculture. Now what was this commercialization of agriculture? By this, the British industrialists were always in the need of raw material, that is like cotton, indigo, jute, groundnut, sugarcane, etc. to keep their factories running. Means from this product they used to get the finished product, cotton, indigo, tobacco, tea, right? So by offering higher prices, the Indian peasants were attracted to production of commercial crops instead of food crops. So the Indian peasants, instead of growing food crops, that is rice, wheat, jawar, bajra, because they were earning money, they thought that if we grow this, we are not getting much money due to famine, due to drought, due to no water, due to no proper seeds. Crops were not grown. So some of the farmers, they started going towards the commercialization. That is, once you sow a seed, once you sow that particular plant, then for years together you don't have to sow again and again. The plant starts growing and you get a proper yield from that. So cotton, indigo, tobacco, sugarcane, groundnut, jute, these were the plants which were profit yielding. Okay, so the extent of commercial agriculture went so far as to make many peasants purchase their food requirements from shops in town. This fall in production of food crops was responsible for the frequent famine in India during the British days. And growing of cash crop instead of food crop is called commercialization of agriculture. So the British government started giving more encouragement to cash crops like cotton, indigo, tobacco, tea, and the process of giving the stress on cultivating of this profit-giving cash crop instead of food grain came to be known as commercialization of crops. During that same period, the Indians had to face to many difficulties like famine, drought condition, loss of crops, but the British government did not do anything for the Indian peasants and farmers. So the period from 1860 to 1900 was a very worst period, because during that time the Indian had to face great famine. Now what is a famine? Famine is a condition where lack of food and water over a longer period of time in areas that can cause death of many people. So many regions in India, many provinces in India had to face this situation where the people had to go without food, go without water for a longer period of time. But the British East India Company did not do anything for the welfare of the people. Now, when all these conditions were been privileging, when is on one side where this disadvantages were they due to the British company, on the other side the British company also came up with some new ideas, new development. Okay, so now we are going to study that how did the British government help in upcoming the Indian society, and how it helped in the development of industries, transport, communication, cultural and traditional life. Okay, so development in transport and communication system. For increase in trade and convenience of administration, the British developed modern facilities like transport and communication in India. In 1853, first railway ran on the route of Mumbai to Thane. I have given some information. The first passenger train which ran between Boribandar, that is Mumbai, Bombay, to Thane. It was operated by 3 locomotives. Locomotives, as you can see, the steam engines, right? So 3 locomotives which was called as Sahib, Sultan and Sindh, and it has 13 carriages, 13 the departments or dabbas you can call, right, the bogies. The Indian Railway was built between Mumbai and Thane in the year 1852 by the British government, and they covered the first distance covered from Mumbai to Thane, that is 34 kilometers, and the first train ran on 16th of April 1853. Now in the same year in 1853, another new development took place, that is the British, for their purpose, for their own requirement, they came with the new idea, that is of telegraph system. So in the year 1853, British started telegraph system in India. Due to this telegraphy means during that time sending messages was very difficult. Either you have to run on the foot or you have to send a messenger, because that time telephones were not in use so much. There were no mobile phones that time. Okay, letters, even if you used to write, the letters used to reach after a month or so. So telegraph means sending an urgent messages in the form of coded languages. So this system was introduced by the British government for their military assistance, because they had their military, that soldiers or the militaries working in different parts of the Indian administration. So every military station got connected to one another due to this telegraphic system. So due to all this the next important development what they did was regarding the postal service. As I said, it was very difficult that one letter which was been written and which was posted, it is to reach after a month. Even if you are in India, even if you are living in Mumbai, from Mumbai if you have to send a letter to Madras, it is to take nearly a period of 15 days to a month. So even postal service was started by British in India. So due to all this development, there was a long-term impact on the social life on the Indians. Indian people also started changing their social life. They started developing themselves. And due to this, there was increase in the sense of unity among them. People started understanding that whatever developments have been taking place, whatever changes are taking place, these changes are for the betterment. But along with this, there were some disadvantages also, because on the one hand, development were taking place, on the other hand, there were some disadvantages. Now, what was the disadvantages? Now, the Britishers, they started bringing their own factories. That is, the power loom started coming in. Okay, factory-made products started coming in. So, on the other hand, the handmade products or the Indian artisan, they started losing their jobs. So, there was decline in the traditional industries in India. Now, Britishers made factory-made goods. So, the factory-made goods was what happening? Large production was being made on a lower cost. On the other hand, Indian artisans who were making handmade goods, low production was there and it required maximum cost. So when the product was bought, suppose if you are preparing a sari, handloom sari which is made by hand, and a sari which is prepared on the power loom, there is a difference, because in power loom at one time you can prepare 10 saris in a day, but by handloom, when you are weaving a sari with the hand, one sari can be prepared only in one day. So there was a vast difference. So this factory made goods were prepared at a maximum cost and they were earning a lot. Whereas on the other hand, Indian artisans, they were preparing the goods with their hand, so their production was less and the earnings were also very less. So this brought the decline in the traditional industries in India. Now, because of this, some of the Indians who had money, but they did not have power to do that, but taking support of some of the people, they started development of new industries in India. Now, what was this new development, or how this development was being brought in India? Let us see. The new development means, the first thing, in 1853, Kawasji Nanobhai Dawar started the first textile mill in India. Next, in 1855, the first jute mill was started at Risra in Bengal. The next important development which took place was the most important, which the whole Indians are proud of today. That is, in the year 1907, Jamshedji Tata established the Tata Iron and Steel Company at Jamshedpur. Today we all are well known with the Tata Group of Industries. Okay, so the founder of the Tata Group Industries was Jamshedji Tata, who brought iron and steel industry in India at Jamshedpur. Now these were some of the Indians who came with the development for the betterments of the Indians. Not only that, there were many social and cultural changes also which took place. Okay, now for carrying out the administration, the British had to understand the Indian society, and for this purpose they started studying the Indian history, the Indian literature, as well as the flora and fauna of India, the medieval period of Indian history, who were the rulers, who were the kings. Not only that, the Ramayana, the Bharata, and how the changes were being brought. So the religion, the tradition, all these were things were being studied by the Britishers. Now what was the purpose behind this? Because when some of the British officers who saw the poor condition of the Indian people, they felt something for them, and they thought that for the better development of the Indians, we need to do something. So on the humanitarian grounds, for the better democracy, for bringing nationalism and liberalism, some of the officers, some of the British officers, they came up with some new ideas and new work. What were these new ideas and how did they help in improvising? In the year 1784, Sir William Jones, an English officer, established the Asiatic Society of Bengal at Kolkata. Similarly, Max Muller, a German thinker, was a great devotee, a scholar of Indian history. He studied about the Indian religion, Indian languages, the ancient Indian history. Okay. Not only that, there were many other English officers who did some important work. Like this, new laws were introduced. Okay. Like Lord William Bentinck. Lord William Bentinck saw the uneven law privileging in the Indian society. That is, after the death of a husband, the wife has to also burn herself alive in the prey of the husband. So when Lord William Bentinck saw this, that incident which is called, or that cruel thing which was taking place in the Indian society, that is called as sati. So he came up with the Act of Prohibition of Sati, Sati Prohibition Act in 1829, where he stopped this uneven practice and he gave rights to the women to live their own life. Not only that, in 1856, Lord Dalhousie, who had passed the policy of adoption, okay, he saw that the widows, okay, if the husband dies, the woman becomes a widow. So the widows were not allowed to get remarried. But the husband, if his wife died, he was allowed to get married. So Lord Dalhousie came up with the Act of Widow Remarriage. So many such new things were being brought in the Indian society.